welcome to College Chats. Today I'm joined by Mr. Brian Martinez. Brian, happy to have you on.
Hey, Beck, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, dude, just to kick it off, man. So would you like to give us a quick little intro, maybe 1 to 2 minutes about who you are? 3 bullet points.
Yeah, so for those of you who may not know me, my full name is Brian Martinez. I'm a sophomore studying finance at San Diego State University. I'm a first generation college student, second generation Hispanic immigrant, and career-wise, I'm pursuing a career in investment banking. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Third generation G. Okay, that's cool. All right, Brian. So, I've known you for a little bit, and we know that you are sophomore finance, and you're also pursuing two minors. Why the two minors, right?
Yeah, so I get that question a lot because people say, why would you take on more classes? But so coming into college, I took a lot of like those AP classes in high school. So I came in with a couple of credits. So if I was not to take those two minors, I would be graduating early, which is something that I don't want to do because I have a scholarship at San Diego State. So if I was to graduate early, I would miss out on that scholarship. So I decided to take on some extra courses that would be accretive to my education. So statistics and quantitative economics, which are my two minors. I decided to pick those up after, consulting with mentors and industry professionals that, they advised that I pick up a couple more classes. So there I'm at today.
Yeah, I think those are two interesting minors to pick, given the nature of kind of where the industries are going. They're all math is important and statistics is important for any data-driven decision. I guess to complete the full overview of kind of Brian, right? I know you did the CFA recently, emerged victorious. We can talk a little bit about that later, but you did mention kind of how you started college. Maybe you could give us like a quick little journey, beginning college, or maybe even the idea of like why you chose state. So maybe pre-college to starting college till now. What's like the little journey been?
Yeah, so if you don't mind, let me start from high school really quickly. Senior year, as you may all know, we have to apply for college's senior year of high school. So San Diego State University and almost every other Southern California university was on my radar because I wanted to stay close to home. So I applied to San Diego State University, Fullerton, Cal State LA, UCLA, USC, and all those schools. I ended up at SDSU because SDSU offered me a full ride scholarship. So, given my background, my family's a low income family. So I had to take on SDSU because one, it's a decent school when it comes to education and business. Two, I was getting that full ride scholarship. And three, it's close to home. So all the three things that I was looking for in a college were there. So the right answer was SDSU. I got accepted to other schools, but SDSU was it. So that's how I ended up at SDSU. And then interestingly enough, I came in with one major, no minors. That major was accounting. So the reason why I chose accounting for SDSU is because it's the cream of the crop when it comes to other schools, because the Big Four recruit out of SDSU, and the Big Four, the most prestigious accounting firms, and I'm an individual that wants to work with great people, smart people, and I would find them at these Big Four. But then after meeting Frank Massa, who was previously on the podcast, he convinced me to switch over to finance and to check out the finance investment side, and then I joined the dark side and picked up my major in finance. So that's the route I've taken so far, and then I'm going to continue go down that path and finish my 4-year degree in finance.
Yeah, that's interesting how you changed from accounting to finance. What do you not like about accounting?
It's too rule based. I like to be creative in my work. I like to make data driven decisions, and in accounting the decisions are already made for you. There's a very specific way that you need to do things, and if you try to deviate from doing it a certain way, if you try deviating from doing it in a certain way, then the SEC will come in and wreck you. So I like to be creative, and finance allows you to be creative and make your own decisions. So that's what was appealing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what they say, finance is 60% art, 40% actual numbers, right? But you know what, I totally get you there. You did touch on this a little bit, but throughout kind of the first couple of years, right? So it's been 1.5 years roughly since you started. What are some of your thoughts on how your college experience has been? For example, what has your involvement been looking like with clubs, social life, and academic, and what has that balance been like?
Yeah, the balance, coming in, the balance is such an interesting and probably the most talked about topic in college. But the balance is, you need to have like that work-life balance. You need to have fun. At the same time, you have to work hard and be studious. But coming into college, the balance has been like this. I've always been skewed to the side of you got to work hard and you got to go out there and achieve great things. So, I starting freshman year, I joined like 4 different clubs. So, and this was just me testing the water, seeing, I think in like club membership expenses, I was like, my first semester, I spent like $200 on memberships of just clubs, just so
Wow.
that I could meet people and just get to know campus. So it was a nice investment because, I got to meet a lot of great people and be part of different things. And that way you're able to determine where you belong, which is the most important thing. So the $200 I would pay again because it helped me discover who I was. So that's kind of what happened at the very beginning of college, and it's something that allows you to just discover yourself. So I'd recommend for people listening to the podcast to go out there and meet people, work hard, and build those connections and that network because you got to put yourself out there so that people know who you are. And career-wise, it's a great move. So yeah.
hmm And then now that you've sort of experienced a couple of different sorts of classes, as well as a little bit of external little projects you've been involved with, what do you think about sort of the curriculum that state currently has compared to what you've seen with hands-on experience? Or I believe you actually had an internship as well in the summer of your freshman year, right? So what has been that difference there?
Between curriculum and actual work experience, you would say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a pretty negative view on this because I don't know if it's just an SDSU problem or if it's the overall CSU Cal State, problem. Given that we are a public school, we have to abide by some certain dumb rules. And this is the difference between private and public schools. Private schools get a little bit more liberty with what they do. But curriculum wise, I have not taken a finance class yet. The most finance related course that I've taken is financial accounting, and that's just the very basic, the most fundamental course that you can take. So this is my second year into college, no finance classes yet. So it kind of pisses me off because you're coming in, you're paying for college, you're investing so much time in order to develop yourself into a career that you want to pursue, but you're not taking any classes into it yet. So that's why joining these clubs are important. That's why building your network is important because that way you can achieve what school is lacking. So my internship experience allowed me to do that. It was in a slightly different industry. It was in insurance, more specifically commercial insurance with Amwins Group, which is the largest wholesale insurance underwriter in the United States. So I worked in their commercial department where we insured commercial businesses of from 5 million to 100 million in revenues. It was a pretty interesting business. Insurance is great, but I want to pursue something more related to finance, and that's what I'll be doing moving forward. But I believe the curriculum at SDSU is very disconnected of what actual, recruiters are asking for and what the real work experience is asking for. So there's a change to be made there.
hmm what's interesting is, and I totally agree with most of your points there, but to play devil's advocate here and sort of get your thoughts on this, what if I were to tell you that I have talked to other students in other, for example, East Coast target or private schools where their curriculum starts introducing, let's say, finance concepts in the third year similar to ours, but like that, essentially the problem you pointed out is common among other schools as well that may be seen as targets, and it might be problem not specifically of one school, but the entire sort of education system is sort of structured this way. What do you think about that?
Wow, I come in here thinking that it's just a CSU problem, but it sounds like it's a whole US problem given the people that you've talked to, which is It's just sad, man, because like people go into debt just to go to college and then they're not getting the education that they need or that they want. So, you know, in the I've talked to professors, I've talked to faculty members about this, and they're like, "Oh, this is just so that you can get a more holistic
Yeah,
education." But
the balance. So some people might not know exactly what they want to do. So I guess the benefit is they can try out different things and via GEs and such, and hopefully get in the right direction. But like you pointed out, I also agree. You could be able to do this same effect with people rather than time spent and units sort of taken. But that, I mean, that's a good point. Now, I kind of want to touch on your specific involvement with finance, right? You touched on like how you were involved with clubs. What did you end up doing from the $200 or $300 worth of membership fees that you spent? What did you convert that into? What is your main involvement looking like now overall, and kind of what does that look like?
yeah, so to give everyone a little bit of perspective, the four clubs that I joined were mostly accounting clubs. And these accounting clubs, I went in just to talk to the professionals and build my network with them, see what the firms were about, and just get because I'm a first generation college student. No one in my family has ever been in business. So I need to learn how people carry themselves. I need to learn how, you're supposed to talk to people, the vocabulary you're supposed to use. So that's another value add that I saw from the investment. But I joined these accounting clubs. I learned a ton from them, and I got a lot of advice from like students that are in upper division classes. So they told me which professors to take, which ones not to take, and the best way that you can structure your career path in terms of college and professionally as well. So that was freshman year, like fall semester. And then I learned about FIS, the Finance and Investment Society, my spring semester of freshman year. And that's where things took a turn, because I learned about the immense world of finance. And I learned from the different speakers that the Finance and Investment Society brings on. So I decided to pursue a career in finance now, with mainly in investment management or investment banking. So as I learned from these professionals and what they do, I just picked up an interest there. So after receiving that value from the club, from FIS, I decided to give back to the students, because I believe that students need to know, it's important for students to know what they want to do with their talent and with their energy. So I decided to go back to the club. So I ran for a position as a vice president of program management and got it. So coming into sophomore year, I served on the board of the Finance and Investment Society as a VP of program management, which is the VP who leads the stock pitch competition of the Finance and Investment Society. So now, after all those involvements and the amount of passion and time that I put into FIS, I was selected to lead as president for the current semester, which as a sophomore of my spring semester. So that's the current position that I have. So you've seen the academic, career progression that I've taken with FIS, from just a general member to a VP to a president, because those are the different stages that I decided to take just to get the full experience and get the most out of the club as possible, because it's a great community and there's a lot to gain from it.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that you touched on the point of being able to know what to spend your energy and time on as a student, which hasn't ever been brought up in a conversation that I've had before. I think I totally agree. Finding the right place to put your energy can probably yield like the greatest results possible, especially with the idea of like how it may potentially, what do you think if you hadn't sort of gone the journey with your club involvement with FIS, and which led to eventually you going from stock pitch to pres, and now with the stock pitch experience, now CFA, what would have happened, right? What do you think would have been an alternate reality?
I'd probably be lost and I'd probably be lost and stressed out about not knowing what I wanted to do. I have a friend that came in as in just general ed. What do they call it? Undeclared. They came in undeclared to SDSU, and then they picked up business, but then they're not sure that they want to do business, so they might be switching to engineering. So And this is over the course of 2 years, which is, I see it as a problem and something that happens when you don't get yourself involved early, because you need to discover what you want to do or what you're passionate about early so that you can start working towards it. Because as much as I hate to say it, it is a competition out there. There's a limited amount of jobs out in the market. So it's going to come down to, who worked the hardest and who put the most amount of hours in and who got the most reps in. So I recommend to everyone to go out there and start getting those reps in and join clubs, spend that money and spend that amount of energy. You can get ahead of others by a mile if you know what you want to do with your time. So
it's great that you mentioned the kind of the job space, and it's a really realistic way to look at it. Now that you touched on that, what do you think what are some of the best practices you've implemented over your time here that has allowed you to successfully land positions, and what could you potentially recommend to students for those like practical skills?
this is a great question, because there's two ways that I go about everything in life. One, you gotta have passion for it, because without passion, there's no substance, there's no reason to do it. You always gotta know why, and that's your passion. So you always gotta put passion into everything, or else it's gonna be bland. You won't really see the purpose behind it, so you won't be quote unquote motivated to do it. And then the second of it, you always have to know how to deal with what you do not know. So you have to deal with what you do not know. This is something that I learned from Ray Dalio, one of the most successful investors out there. He took this approach, and he took this approach academically and professionally, because when you know what you don't know, you can start asking yourself questions and start working on how to get the answer. So, and the way that you get the answers by following the 3 simple steps that I have. You analyze, you plan, and you execute. So you first, whenever you have a problem, you analyze what the problem is, see, what the problem is causing, what's the scope of the problem, and then you plan. So you plan your way to solve the problem. What resources are you going to need to solve the problem? So now that you know what the problem is and you know how to tackle it, all there's left to do is to execute. So it's a simple 3-step process that's going to help you move forward in life. People tend to attack a problem from multiple different directions, or whenever they're in a dilemma, they try to attack it from different directions. But all you have to do is analyze, plan, and execute. So that's my secret sauce right there.
That does sound like secret sauce. You have that memorized to the T. You've been implementing that for a while?
Yeah, I would say ever since learning that, because that concept, or that the advice that Ray Dalio gives in his book Principles, which is a great book, by the way, y'all should check it out. Principles is the book where he talks about like how he progressed academically and career wise, and there he talks about how to deal with what you do not know, which is more important than knowing everything, because some people try to know everything, but it's more important to know what you do not know. So after that, I just got thinking, well, how do I solve a problem? How do I tackle a problem? How do I come up with a solution? It's just a simple 3-step process. There's no need to overcomplicate things, and I've been implementing it ever since the beginning of time, because life has been a struggle, and the only way that you can achieve success is by persevering, and you're able to persevere by having a plan and executing on it. So
Could not have said that better myself. All right, Mr. Brian Martinez, thanks so much for hopping on. You got some great wisdom in here, and if I was a freshman just joining state, I would treat this video as a Bible, basically. But yeah, thanks so much for hopping on, Brian.
Solid advice. My LinkedIn is going to be on the description, so feel free to reach out to me. Beck, thanks for having me on.